How about that? I had myself on mute. Welcome to Totally Driven Radio, Diane. I'm
I know,
talking away and I muted
listening.
myself out. Wow.
I'm thinking, do they know I'm here? Did they forget? Maybe I should just go home right now.
I'm babbling about National Record Store Day and nobody even cared except myself. How about that?
Oh.
So welcome to
hi.
Totally Driven Radio. How you doing?
I am great and so happy to be talking to you.
You know what? I'm happy to be talking to you. And, I got to ask, do you get this reaction? This is the reaction I got when I've been promoting it for this past week. You put out there, Diane Franklin, Last American Virgin, Better Off Dead, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and
Oh, my gosh.
90% of the reaction I got was, oh, my God, I had such a crush on her. Oh, my God, I used to love her. So it was like all these positive things. And then I got a message today from somebody, and they go, is that the girl from Last American Virgin? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I hate that bitch. He's like, I've held a grudge for 32 years against her. I was like, wow, okay.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Well, that's kind of refreshing to hear. I mean, seriously, First of all, I can't even believe that people remember me, and I mean that. Like, that's so crazy. Like, it's shocking to me that even people remember who I am. Okay, that's the first thing. Let's just get that across the board. And I say that people probably think, oh, come on, Diane, but seriously, it's not a given, And then, okay, to have a crush on me, that's like something. That's like a dream come true. That's like, okay, that's fantastic. And then occasionally someone thinking I'm a bitch, well, that balances it out, right? It makes it,
Right.
It's like, okay, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. And if you haven't seen Better Off Dead and you've just seen, Last American Virgin, you absolutely would think I'm a bitch, and that's just the way it goes, right?
Right.
But I have a funny story to tell you based on what you're telling me. My husband and I, we went to a wedding, and this woman was scowling at me at the wedding. And this was after I had done acting. I mean, it was probably 5 years after I, was out of the business. And she's scowling at me, and my husband goes up to her and says, what's your problem? Why are you looking at my wife like this? And she saw me in this movie of the week called Summer Girl. And I was crazy and evil in that, and she never forgot it, and she thought that I was this character. And he said, she's the nicest person. Seriously, she would never kidnap your kids and seduce your husband. She's right. Seriously, she would not do that, right? So what a life, right? Just hilarious.
Yeah, how does that feel though? I mean, it's got to give you a compliment to your for your acting.
Mm-hmm.
That people all these years still remember these things, and you're still on people's radars in their head. They'll never forget these things about you.
Well, here's how I see it, and in fact, I would not be out in public, and I would not have written a book and talk about my life, and if I really didn't have come to terms with that kind of sort of being out there and taking people's reactions, because I really didn't know, again, if people would remember me. I started getting back sort of in the business very slowly, because I really felt is this just something that is, I don't know, I guess not letting go of the past or something, why,
Sure.
Why am I even doing this, I guess. But I got recognized so much, and then the other thing was, my daughter, she was, I guess when this all started, she was probably around 13 or something, and she had this huge, or still has, but she's older now, so she had this huge crush on Jermaine Clement, who is in Flight of the Conchords. Do you know that show?
I know the name, but...
Okay, Jermaine Clement is a musician, and he's an actor, and he was part of this comedy band for HBO, or it was a comedy band called Flight of the Conchords, and HBO discovered them, and they wound up having their own show on HBO, and then they wound up doing concerts, and anyway, on and on. So he was her first crush. I mean, she was in love with this guy. And it occurred to me that your first crush, whether it be a person on TV or a film or whatever is where you allow yourself to fall in love for the first time, right? Like,
right, yeah.
I would assume, like, even with women, especially with women, it's like, why would we have sex if we didn't learn to fall in love first, okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, in the sense that you need to have that crush first. Then you're going into relationships, because relationships are so much more difficult. So it suddenly occurred to me that when people remember me, it's like I was their introduction or, you know, to either sex education or falling in love or, you know, and that is such a gift. And so I thought, you know, what could be better? I mean, I know actors who have played horrible, mean characters, and if they go out in public, people hate them, or they're like, you know, you go meet De Niro and you're not feeling like he's going to be a friendly guy and shake your hand. You're going to be like, hi. You're going to be much more, you know, passive. Like, you're afraid of maybe meeting him, you know, because you think he's like his character. So for me, I thought that gave me, I guess, seeing her reaction with him. I saw that it's such a big part of growing up, and I was able to, like, I just went, yeah, of course, this is absolutely. And so I think for a lot of people, meeting me it's closure, especially if you've seen Last American Virgin. But and then the other part of it is, as an actress and going and playing a lot of different roles, I mean, I love acting and I love playing all different. I was really fortunate to be able to play the girl who got the guy, or that role, you know, and get leads as those characters and play so many different kinds of characters. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to start putting it out and seeing if people even care. And so all of a sudden, like, I put this collector's book out first before I even had the book that I have now out. And it was handmade. I mean, like, I literally made it by hand. I printed the pages. It didn't even have a picture on the cover. It was just, like, made by hand. And I would go to these conventions and I would sell out. And I only sold, like, a limited amount of them because I just felt like it was just something like, do people even care? But people really loved it. So then that's why when I went on to do my book, and then from there, I got, oh my gosh, things started happening. Like I did a pilot, and also my daughter, she makes films, and that's what kept me going back into acting to help her with her films, and now I have a super cool thing to tell you guys. You're the first people to know.
Oh, nice. Okay, I like this stuff.
Okay, nobody knows this, but I just got a theatrical agent just last week. So I'm going to start going on auditions again. Oh, my gosh.
Nice.
Because I haven't been doing that because I have my family and my kids, and they're getting older, and, you know, I can be with them, but I've kind of pulled back, and I have not gone on theatrical auditions, probably since the late 80s, 90s, maybe the 90s. And so this is cool. So maybe I'll be on a whatever CSI. Maybe I'll be in a film. You know, I don't know. But before I was sort of just doing conventions and stuff. So we will see. But this is like, you get the inside scoop. I haven't told anybody yet. So
all this time, like you had to have deep down the itch or the bug to do this.
You know, okay. So here's the scoop. I am one of those people that, like, I believe that there are these windows of life. Like, you have these opportunities in life, and you focus on what your life is to the fullest at that moment. So when it was my career, I totally focused on my career. And when it was my family, I totally focused on my family. And now it's my time of giving back. So when I'm acting, like, I look at my life and I go, I personally, I think I'll always be remembered as an 80s actress. That will be my, like, that's my contribution to, like, the entertainment business, and I think that is awesome. If people remember me as 80s babe, yeah, that's awesome. That's great. And my acting,
and that's just, like, you embrace that, which is cool too.
Oh, yeah, right. Because, and you know, funny you say that, because as I've been doing this, you know, I also really am very supportive of all the actresses that have gone on auditions at the time I was going. And I even to the point where I decided I wanted to do a radio show, and I hosted my own radio show on this station called Cult A Go-Go. And I invited all these actress friends of mine and interviewed them and just told them how amazing they were, because they know, I don't know if everybody, you know, tells them that. I mean, they were not maybe the Molly Ringwalds, but they were like, you know, they were awesome actresses and just did, you know,
Sure.
really great work, and they were consistently working. I mean, it wasn't like somebody got just discovered. At the time when I was acting, people acted steadily, like it was a serious, it's their occupation. So, you know, Claudia Wells and Betsy Russell and Heather Langenkamp, Amanda Witt, E.G. Daly. I mean, these are all like working actresses. So anyway, as I'm doing all this, and I also am going to conventions, you know, when you think about who is like the beautiful hot babe of the 80s, you think of Phoebe Cates, usually, I would think, right? Isn't that
sure.
Is she the one? Right? I mean, I hope that's like, I'm not talking about somebody like, who? Who are we talking about?
No, of course. Everybody pictures Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Yes.
Exactly. And to the point where I even saw it on a commercial. Like, that's how crazy it got, like that particular shot. But the thing is, because she went into almost like hiding, you know, sort of like she went into her, like, and she's still, I just see she's a beautiful actress. I just felt like anybody who thought she was beautiful, they all meant it with the most, I mean, you're attracted to her or not, but it's like they meant it because she was probably their first crush, and they fell for her because that was the time. I mean, and every generation has that. Like the 90s have it, you know, the 60s had it. Every generation has their heartthrobs, you know.
Absolutely.
The girls that they're crazy about. So thinking about that, I thought, well, you know, who am I to judge what makes, you know, what affects people? I mean, if you think I'm hot, great, you know. I mean, now in my 50s, it's like, all right, yeah, I'll take that. But, you know, would I have come up and done all this when I was in my 20s? Probably not, because for several reasons. One is because I think that it would have been, I know this is a weird thing to say, but I would not have wanted to say, like if guys wanted to ask me, I would have felt very bad about saying no, and that's just me. So I wouldn't have wanted to be in that position to say, no, I can't, you know. And the second thing is I would have been so much more, in my career, I would have been acting, so I wouldn't have been doing so much publicity. And then also, as an actress, you know, when you're working, you don't want people to know too much about you, because then they'll see who you are as opposed to the character, right? Mm-hmm. And so, at least in the 80s when I was going, there really wasn't a lot of publicity unless you were on a show or you were the top star, because it was more about, if people knew too much about you then, and that was just not fashionable. People just did not know. It was more of a mystery. And it was the audience's luxury to just fall in love with your character and never know that you were anything different. And that is the only thing I feel a little bit like lose that imagery of what they wanted me to be, or they're, you know, whatever, attracted to me, or whatever. Or if they want to really believe that I'm a bitch, yeah, okay, you know, I'm a bitch then, right? So, like, go for it. So it's kind of, that's like the bittersweet part of, like, kind of doing it. But I figured now that so much time has passed, I really feel like the audience is more nostalgic and is more like they want to know, and they just want to hang out and talk to me, and I don't know, it's just a different time.
Well, and you keep mentioning the conventions you do. I mean, you must get a great reaction doing these conventions, and you must have exactly that, where I'm sure you probably get how many guys at each convention come up to you and say, you were my first crush, or they just want to talk to you, and I'm sure the stories you could tell are endless.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, which is, first of all, yes, my main audience are men, but I do now with Better Off Dead, and see, because the films have been out for so long, now I have a little wider audience. I do have women as well come up to me, and some women are attracted to me too, whatever. That's like a whole other story. Now the world is open. But I do get great positive reactions, and I enjoy meeting people, and I really am, so the first aspect of it is I'm always kind of amazed by people's stories or what they, I mean, even though maybe somebody says, oh, I was in love with you, I had a crush on you, it's just not something I take for granted. I think everybody is special. So I really enjoy meeting each person and hearing what their experience of my career was, whether they were, 12 years old, like Brett Ratner, who, like, he saw me at 12 years old, and that I became his crush, or, and if you're 16, or if you're, like, in your 20s and you've never seen the films before, and now you're seeing it for the first time. So, but I do think that the films I was in are sort of cult films, and I think they still surprise audiences, and strange. I mean, I really don't think that they're going to go away.
No.
What do you think?
No, you know what? And that I was going to say that's like that era of films, like that early '80s with your Last American Virgin and Porky's and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. They don't make movies like that. I mean, they're so iconic, those movies today. And
I would wonder if somebody today would watch them and really feel like they learned something about life, even watching them today, because at the time, early '80s was the '70s, which was like, Taxi Driver and Sophie's Choice, and all those movies were like very gritty and real. There was this filmmaking that was very like showing the truth of life. So here comes Last American Virgin. It was actually the first teen film to come out before Fast Times Ridgemont High. I mean, Fast Times Ridgemont High came out first, but Last American Virgin was actually made first, and it was like 1980, I think, when we shot it, or 1981, something like that. So when we came out with Virgin, that was the beginning of all these teen films. But I'm going to tell you right now, what started the whole thing was Brooke Shields and those Calvin Klein ads.
Okay.
Because those Calvin Klein ads from Brooke Shields jump-started being able to see a young teen, and, people could say it's a child, but, young girl, and I mean, also, I have to actually probably preface that with Pretty Baby, that film, that was like the jump starter for the teen films, because suddenly you could see a young girl as feminine. And before that, like a 12 or 13-year-old girl had to be a tomboy.
Yeah.
And all like Jodie Foster and Tatum O'Neal. So now we have like the tip of it being Pretty Baby, but Pretty Baby was an adult audience, and yet that sort of influenced the whole teen thing for me, because all of a sudden I get Last American Virgin, which made like people started going, oh, teens are coming to films, let's go and make more of these, and it became this whole huge let's explore young teenagers, under 18 looking kids and what they go through. And then John Hughes came, and then by the mid 80s when I did Better Off Dead, that was the time of upbeat, fun. Almost, it was okay to have a film without a sex scene.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, John Hughes films accomplished, hey, we could do 16 Candles and Breakfast Club without having nudity or sex.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
The earlier 80 ones had to have, like, it's almost like the gratuitous nude scenes in it.
Absolutely. Because you have
where
to
you're
get the
exactly right.
To the theater. Yeah. You have to get the audience in the theater, and they weren't confident enough that they could do it without nudity. And when Better Off Dead came out, we all were like, oh my gosh, a script without a sex scene or nudity? This is gold. How did this happen? You mean it's just based on something funny? How is that even possible, right?
Right,
and then, but I mean, so watch the evolution of this. Like, okay, we can do a movie and we can bring people to the theater. Although Better Off Dead did not do very well in the theaters, but it did great in the college circuit. So it was word of mouth, and people just handed it from college to college. Like, it became the underground in movie to see. And then by the end of the 80s, we've all accepted that there can be comedies in films without nudity, right? So there you get Bill and Ted and TerrorVision. Well, essentially, like that was a popular film, but you get movies without the nudity, and that was a parody. Those movies actually were parodies of the 80s in the 80s. Those were like 1989, and they sort of said, let's, from the early 80s, in Bill and Ted, right?
Right.
You know, that, dude, listen, you know, and that is the most endearing character ever. I love those characters. I mean, in Dumb and Dumber, we're bringing back that kind of like, what, you know, those two buddy guys, you know, from that. So it's sort of like, it's just interesting how films have evolved, especially for my generation and my age, because adult films were different, but for teenagers, I covered the teenage age. That was like the first time you got to fall in love with a teenage girl. I mean, you could say Natalie Wood and all those from that generation, but they were all, their teen was much older than the teens I played. Do you know what I'm saying?
And it
they
wasn't
looked like
as,
they were in their 20s.
it wasn't as open either. I mean, with the 80s team. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I mean, like, even how about, like, making those movies? Like, making, like, Virgin was, I mean, was it like a party? I mean, was it, like, a nonstop fun on the set?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, and by the way, FYI, if anybody's interested, all this information, I get into real detail, is in my book, which is on Amazon. I'm just going to say,
I love the name of this book.
Okay, get ready. Okay, which is why I named this, because I just think it's so funny. It's called, you get it on Amazon, and it's Diane Franklin, The Excellent Adventures of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. So.
That's really great.
That's right. And Steve Holland from Better Off Dead did my foreword, which is awesome. And a gentleman named Michael Picarella, who is a huge 80s fan. He loves 80s stuff, which is why I let him edit my book, because he just totally got what was great about the 80s. He edited my book, and the deal is, if you go on Amazon, just write Diane Franklin book, and you'll see it. And there's a big picture of me, so that's how you find it. But you're asking about the 80s, and so one of the things I did, this book is really, it's an 8x10. It's really fun. It's a paperback. I have tons of pictures in it, and my goal with it was to get it so you can go back in time, and if you didn't know the 80s, you could go back and you could hear the vernacular in my voice, and I don't know if that's the right word, but you could hear my awesome and totally like as if you were talking with me in the 80s, but how I really spoke, and so it's not arched dialogue, and you don't have to wait to you don't have to search for the movie you like. I have chapters on Better Off Dead, Bill and Ted, Amityville, too, and I have in-depth detail on everything. So I talk about that in depth. But when you're talking about the experience of shooting Last American Virgin, the great part about that film is because that was the first feature film that I was a lead in, but it was my first feature, and so it was the first feature for a lot of the other people in it, and so there was nobody who was above it, or there was no person who was the star. So what happened was you had a bunch of young actors who just wanted to act and do great work. And I mean, I thought it was really funny. You think, Last American Virgin, who wants to do great acting in this film? Well, this was all our first break,
Right.
So we were all very into it. I mean, Lawrence Monason, he was just preparing for his roles, he was just working, and it was not fluff to all of us. And everybody who was in it, I mean, it's very funny, but everyone, I think, was made perhaps because Boaz's real-life story is based on the director's true life. We all took it to heart. We didn't feel it was gratuitous, but we did feel like, what is the tone of this movie? It's like sex film, gratuitous, and then at the same time there's this heavy-duty story in it. So the tone was confusing, I think, to all of us in a way, but at the same time, if they didn't have that duplicity in the tone, I may not have done it. Because if it was just nudity and if it was just gratuitous, I would not have done it. But because there was this juicy part for me as an actress to play, you got to see, this girl she is just sort of the catalyst for all this, and she's just the girl, you could be anybody. She's just the girl. Sure. I think that makes it's such a story that, even though it's made in the 80s, and it's a great reference to the 80s, the clothing, the music, the like the abortion. I mean, even just the issues in it.
Mhm.
It's a great time capsule of the 80s in so many ways, but it's also all over the world could identify with it because it's a love story. And my big thing was I really think it was essentially one of the few sex educations for guys, because you go in and go, hey, these girls are naked, this is great, I'm going to go watch that movie, You go see the movie, and all of a sudden you learn about love. And you're like, wait a minute, what? Because if I told you to go see a love story, I bet 90% of the guys would have been like, I don't think so. I'd rather go, like, play video games, hang out, whatever. But if it's a sex thing, they go, oh, yeah. And then all of a sudden they're opened up. And in that movie you learn about, like, venereal disease and abortion and prostitution. And, you learn about all these things maybe at a time where that was something really helpful to know about. I met one guy, he said to me, I didn't get my friend pregnant because of you. I was like, all right, that worked out. Good for you.
Happy I could help.
What'd you say? I'm like glad to help.
Glad to help you out there.
Yeah.
It's funny too, but you're so right, because like the situation in my life growing up, like my father died when I was real young, so it was my mother raising me and my grandparents.
Right.
And my mom was much older.
Right.
Right, and my mom was much older. Right. My mom had me at 40. So
that's what I did. My mom had me at 42. High five over the phone. Exactly.
There you go.
Okay.
So so there was my mom was not about to talk sex with me as I was growing up.
Right.
And
was she an immigrant? Was she an immigrant too? Or
my
American?
Grandparents were from Italy. So
yeah, she doesn't want to know about sex. If you were Catholic, forget about it. We're not going to be talking about that, right?
Exactly. So
right?
So watching these movies as a preteen and a teen was how I got my sex education.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? Thank goodness I was one of your teachers.
How about that? How about that?
Because you could be no better person.
It's funny too, because even today, like with movies like these, or even old classic TV shows, like I'll bring up storylines to my daughter, and I'll say, and I'll make her sit down and watch it with me, because it was how I learned so much about life was through these shows.
Yep.
And I don't feel at times I'm like, there's not a better way to explain it unless you watch this show or movie.
Yeah, actually, now that you're bringing that up, that's a very interesting thing. It's actually, when you think about it, films and movie and TV are a way to learn things that maybe your parents missed teaching you. That really is in certain areas. Maybe they can't teach you everything, and suddenly you watch in a film, and you go, oh, now I get it. So that's really smart.
Now, how about when you're doing the nude scenes and all? I mean, when they approach you to do that stuff, were you kind of shaky, nervous that you don't want to do it, you don't want to sign up for the movie, or?
Well, it did occur to me that you sign contracts and you have obligations when you do nudity, and I actually did nudity 3 times, and that's it. That, I guess that's a charm, right? You go 3 times and that's it. And because the reason why is only because I think the body is beautiful, and I think you should be very proud of your body. But I also feel like I guess it's you don't. It shouldn't be something that I didn't want to be known for it only. I wanted to be known that I can actually act, or that I could actually, do roles. But I also do feel that if I had not had my sexuality in it, that wouldn't have been my whole self either. So I think for me as a person, I think it's really important to express your sexuality as an actress, or an actor. It's the well-rounded part of you, and frankly, the world wants to when you watch a film and you go to see something, you want to see something that you maybe would be too afraid to do yourself. And so when you go and watch it, it's like you learn and you say, okay, that's this is something maybe you had no idea existed. And I don't know, it's just interesting. I mean, it has. So anyway, my feeling about nudity, when I did it, it was 1 was Virgin, 2 was Amityville Part 2, and 3 was this movie called Second Time Lucky, which I took the role because it was the role, it was a dream role, but I played the role of Eve, as in Adam and Eve, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, what are you going to do? Have Eve clothes on? No, I'm like a method actress, right? I'm like not going to. I mean, no, it has to be real. It has to be. No, I mean, like seriously, like I mean, that would have been really silly, you know, as an actress. You
Sure.
know, you have to. Let's be real. So anyway, but as far as doing the nudity, you sign a contract and you're obligated to do it. But I remember, you know, before I did Virgin, that was a very big moment for me because I thought, you know, what if I just last minute decided to say no?
Right.
What if I, on the set, just said, nope, not doing it, you know? That occurred to me, and I remember that was like one of the thoughts. I mean, again, I talk about this more in detail in my book, but like my experience in the nude scenes and all that. But my it was just it's just funny when you are put in that situation, especially somebody in the sense. I mean, I'm kind of not maybe what one person would expect to do nudity because I'm kind of level-headed, and I went to a public school in Long Island, and like I have a sense of, I have, you know, family. I'm not, you know, a runaway that's, you know, broken and forced to do this, or the, you know, whatever, like a stage parents, you have to do this. This is all my, you know, drive, my dream. So, but I think the part of me that when I was about to do it, I said to myself, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it in a way that is really shows my like the innocence, like really conveys like what it would be like for a girl for the first time, and the trust in my eyes. Do you know, when I look at somebody, I all I can say is that all those scenes had a very I really took my time and wanted it to be not just real, but have the vulnerability and the sensuality. Like in Virgin, it had to be very innocent, but there's a depth. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you may fall in love with the character, because there's a depth to my character. I'm not just a body. I mean, I often think like if somebody else was put in that role, they might have been young looking, but they may not have had, you may not have fallen in love with them.
Right.
It may have just been like, they're hot, or, you know, but I tried to make my character really like a deer or something, like very like you could scare me off in a second, you know, you could scare me off in a minute, but I'm just going to stay there, you know. So you're seeing something very special and very delicate. And actually doing it, you know, I was not, it wasn't like I went in like, I'm going to take my clothes off, you know. I was nervous, and I was, and the other thing, again, which is so funny, you know, if you take your clothes off, honestly, it's not like I looked like Marilyn Monroe, you know, or, you know, I was thinking, what if I take my clothes off and they go, I think we're going to have to replace you, you know. I'm like,
yeah, but that's nowhere near the case. I mean, they were probably like golf claps.
But it's funny, you never know, you know. Like, I mean, you think, you know, you could, you know, if they want somebody who's like really, you know, big chested and all that stuff, or, you know, has this kind of, you know, whatever kind of body. I don't know. To me, it was one of those, again, I couldn't, I had no idea what the reaction would be. And when we did it, it was a closed set. You know, when you do nudity, there's only like you, director, the cameraman, and whoever you're doing the scene with. Right. Everyone's gone. So it's very intimate.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's not like you take your clothes off and people start laughing, you know. It's like,
right.
And pointing, going, oh my gosh, look at that. So I think but the first time I have to say, oh my gosh, everyone was really nice. And Steve Anton, he was great. I mean, he was like, you know, like, hey, it's okay. And he was very relaxed and nice with me. And he was just like, not just respectful, but just sort of comforting. You know, he was comforting. So I guess it probably took about a half hour to shoot because we had to do a lot of different angles and whatever,
right.
you know, and do the whole thing over.
Or that was the excuse they used.
Exactly. And then they kept those dailies, right? Where are those dailies, right? So
now, how about today? Like when you look back at those, or do you like tell your kids not to watch it? Like you don't want to see your mother in these movies.
Now that is a really good question. You know, my kids are so definitely gone up to them and said, you know, does anything make you feel uncomfortable? Like you, and in fact, that's another thing. Before I put my book out, before I did anything, I asked them. Like I talked to both my son and daughter and said, you know, how do you feel about this? I was with my husband as well, but I mean, I just sort of was more concerned about them getting flack or people saying stupid things to them, and I just didn't know how I wanted to make sure it was okay. And they were like, Mom, of course we're proud of you. Like, we don't care. Like, this is, you know, whatever. They will always see me as Mom anyway, so that's the whole other thing. But my daughter, because she's a filmmaker, she's seen the Amityville movie, but she doesn't like scary films anyway. She does comedy. So, but Virgin, I have not shown her yet. Oh, she saw part of it, which was another funny story. This is a great little story. My son, when he was like 10 years old, he comes downstairs and I'm cooking in the kitchen, and he says, Mom, there's this woman on TV and she looks just like you. And I'm like, oh my God. And like, I'm thinking, what channel is it? It was VH1. Oh my gosh. So I'm running upstairs. My daughter's standing there and goes, and at the time, probably my daughter was like 13 or something. My son was 10 and she's like, Nick, cover your eyes. Mom's going to be naked. You know? And I'm like, oh my God, no, wait. And it's just about to be maybe the, I don't know if it was the abortion scene or something like that. And I looked and I went, no, wait, it's VH1. It's okay. They cut it out. And so it was so funny. And I just said to them, you know, there's no other mother in the suburbs where we are that's saying this right now. Like that this is happening to right now.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
they were, you know, they were like, well, okay. So, so anyway, with Virgin, I want my daughter to see it because she actually is a filmmaker. But when they were younger, it doesn't make any sense. But I think as they get older, you know, they can absolutely see it. It's just, I haven't like said you can't see it, but it didn't come up. I mean, it's kind of funny, but when you're mom, you're always mom. The career part is like, yeah, you do this, but we, you know, where are you going to be, you know, coming to my basketball game? Are we going to like, you know, hang out together? You just, you know, we're shooting a movie. Can you be in my film? You know, it's a whole different, you know, what are you having for breakfast? You know, it's like
how about like your kids' friends' parents? Like I'm sure like some of the fathers are. Yeah, I'm sure some of the fathers are probably like, oh my Lord, I remember her.
Yep. Now that's a great question. That is hilarious. Yes, I have gotten some people who remember me, and it's so funny because sometimes they'll talk to me when their wives aren't there, which is so funny. Like the wives will go get a cup, like we'll be at an event, and they'll like walk away, the wife will go get coffee or a drink or whatever, and the husband will, yeah, sorry, I remember you from that movie, you know? And I'm like, yeah, that's the way it goes, right? But I think sometimes they're more embarrassed than I am. I guess because they're the ones who remember me from when they were growing up, right? So,
right.
And so I think that they get a little bit shyer, you know, which is very sweet. You know, no one ever says anything inappropriate to me. And I think it's just because it's not necessarily even me now. It's their memory of me.
Right.
So I think it brings back it's like kind of just an amazing experience. You see somebody who you had a crush on, and you just it's just cool. You just get all excited and blushing, and I don't know. But it is funny that sometimes I get that, and then some people like they, you know, maybe they had a crush, but they're covering it, like, oh yeah, I knew you were an actress, and you know they're kind of covering that they like maybe had a crush on me, so. It's like, oh well, funny. It's really I can enjoy it now. And it's just great nostalgia too, you know. And then, you know, people remember you, like, again, one person thinks I'm a bitch because they saw me in Virgin, and another one's like, oh my gosh, I love Better Off Dead. And, you know,
Right.
in fact, another thing is, I teach acting, and some of the students, like really little, like, you know, little, like, fifth graders or something, they came up to me and they said, oh, we just saw Bill and Ted's, and you're the princess, you know. And so that's a whole new generation of kids going, oh my gosh, you know, just this is funny because they've got that lovely kind of like that sort of that first kind of, oh my gosh, I love that movie, and even today, which is amazing. This is amazing. I'm so fortunate
those movies
to be
will never die.
Yeah, I'm glad that I'm in an era where we get to watch movies again and again on our own. I mean, actresses who did films or way earlier, they weren't on VHS, they weren't on CD. You would forget about that actress because maybe you saw it in the movie theater, but it was only a memory, and you never have the actual, you know, you get to see it again and have it stay. So I am so fortunate, really fortunate.
Now, here's an off-the-wall question for you. Like, a thing you always heard about, like, women trying out for movies, especially, I guess, in the 80s, was the quote-unquote casting couch. Did you ever have problems with that?
Right. Never. That's another thing. I never had the casting couch, which probably is because I started so young as an actress that I knew I was represented by a legitimate agent and manager, so I only got calls for things that were legitimate. And that's probably the deal. I mean, I have to tell you, if you're in a professional in the business, that stuff does not go on. Not in anything like, not networks. I think it's, you know, not big studios, only because, look, somebody might be attracted to me, going to mess with it because of, I guess, legal reasons, and
sure.
It's just different. But I will say that if you're an actress and you think that's going to get you a role, well, yeah, I think you're going to be, you know, you're going to use whatever you can to get a role, but you're probably not going to get the role because that doesn't make you get the role. What makes you get a role in acting is doing the job, you know?
Sure.
So,
sure.
But I'm sure that there are people obviously who take advantage of that, but I got to tell you, they're not top tier. They're not they're the wannabes or the next level. They're not the ones that are making it, working.
Right.
And that's the funny thing about the business. So many people, I've always felt that people in business, the professional business, are so nice and they're so respectful of actors. They take care of actors. But again, that was in the 80s. I don't know what's happening now. You know, it's a whole different ballgame. There's reality television. So actors who are working, let's say if you're a professional actress, you have to do what the reality stars wouldn't even do. Because reality stars will be like, yeah, I'll do this, but I'm not doing that. And then how do you get somebody to do something like that in a film? You have to pay somebody, you know. So it's a little different, you know. The world is different, but I'm a maverick. You know, I'm a maverick. I'm somebody I love adventure, I love surprise, and I love giving, and I love helping people, and my nature is upbeat, so I always see the upbeat aspect of it, and I always see if you can, you know, why not is the aspect I look at it, you know, go for it. And I pass that on to my kids, you know. So.
Now, what is your feelings like on reality TV since you brought it up?
Oh, okay. What I did on reality TV, or
what? Do you enjoy reality TV, would you do reality TV?
Oh, okay. So funny. Okay, very quickly. I did this convention, and then I got on people were at this convention, and they asked to put me on it. So I wound up on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, but it was just a really short thing, like don't blink. But I was just there for like a second as like, you know, doing autographs. But that was my only stint in reality TV. And as far as reality TV goes, it takes such a full commitment, because if you have your own show, that is your whole life. And there's so many aspects of it. Like, I would prefer to do a role and play do roles as an actress. So reality TV, I don't feel bad about it. I just think I think it kind of gets sort of old, and old fast. So what I see in my future is like, doing TV shows, episodes of TV shows. I would love to do some sci-fi. I would love to be like on a Star Trek or something like that, because I haven't done that world, which would be so much fun. Obviously, I mean, any show. There's so many great shows on TV, that I would love to be on.
And there's so many networks now.
Oh, right. And there's opportunity in many different things. And I'd love to play like, just something really gritty. I don't know. Just there's many, many different things. But on the other hand, my daughter, she's a filmmaker, and I've been acting in her films, and her name is Olivia De Laurentiis, which is a good last name, but distantly related to Dino. And she just turned 17, but she had a film at the LA Film Festival called Humanized, and that was like a 30-minute film. And then she did a film called My Better Half, which was at the Soho Film Festival last year, got in, and they didn't even know she was 16. Like, only adults got into that film festival, so we were in New York, and it was amazing that she was even in it. And that was a half-hour film as well, or a little longer. And then she did sort of like a feature film, a 45-minute film called Love Child, and she got an award last fall for that. So she keeps, and anytime she needs a mom or anybody, I come in as in her films. And I try to my goal is to bring the audiences to watch her films as well. But she's brilliant. I mean, she's hilarious. She writes, acts, edits, and directs her own films. And she's only 17, and she's stunning. Okay? That's just the way it goes. She's stunning. So,
actually, I saw like some of the trailers and stuff, the videos.
Yeah.
And
you can go on YouTube and see the trailers.
Yeah.
We're holding the films back, but she's cute, right?
She looks like you back in the, she's like her twin.
Aw, thank you. She's very funny. Sometimes when we talk, my husband can't tell like who's who on the phone because we kind of sound similar. But she's in mid-production of a boy band parody called Devin Bright and the Sensitive Boys. And so it's a boy band parody. It's hilarious. And I play a neurotic stage mom. So that's what I'm doing right now for her. And so we'll see when that comes out. But, you watch out for her because, honestly, you think I've affected the world. This girl, oh, my gosh, it's just hilarious. Brilliant.
Were you surprised when she wanted to, like, start following in your footsteps?
Well, that's a good question. She actually didn't, but this is what happened. When she was little, we found out she had a photographic memory. So we always, we have to challenge her outside the box, right? When you have a kid that's really bright, you got to go. You can't just go the regular way. You have to go outside the box. So we thought, okay, well, she's, I'm an actress. At some point, she's probably going to want to do acting, and I never wanted my kids to put acting on a pedestal. So when she was 5, she's like I said, you want to try auditions? And she's like, okay, fine. So she started acting, and she was in Happy Feet, and she did this thing with Julie Andrews, like this short film which is on YouTube called The Cat That Looked at the King. And so she actually is in SAG-AFTRA, and so is my son. But they're just like, it was, for me as a mom, I was like, you guys need to try this because I never want you to put acting on a pedestal. Like, is this something you want to do? And at the time, both kids, like my son was like, I'd rather do music. And my daughter was like, I like acting, but I really want to do more film. And so she actually, honestly, made her first film at 5 years old. Like, there's a montage.
Wow.
I can't even begin to tell you. Like, she would tell me, and I would, write it. She's like, okay, let's do this. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. Beginning, middle, and end. And so she's always been interested in movie making and all the aspects of it. And I guess the only thing I said to her was that you don't want to tell people you do it. You want to show them. So if you want to do something, you tell me what you want to do, and I will help you. But you don't want, if you're a teenager and you're like, you say, I'm a director, people go, oh, that's cute. Can you get me some coffee? So that's, you know what I mean? So for me as a mom, that was like, I guess my biggest contribution is, you listen to your child and you listen to what they want to do, and then you go, okay, I'll, take you seriously what you want to do. So, and same thing with my son. For him, he loves music, and surfing and basketball, and I always look at like men and women. Like women try to do things early because they sort of have a half-life. If you're going to have babies and be pregnant and stuff, you got to get your career going way early. But men,
right.
you're going to work your whole life. So you're like, I'm not sure what I want to do. Maybe I should take a thought about it. So, there's no rush. So that's my kind of thinking with teenagers. It's that the girls, they need to move it faster. But the guys, there's a reason why they're not rushing into, a career perhaps. Because if they've got a long time to figure out what they want to do and maybe do many different occupations as well, Anyway,
right.
that's my 2 cents.
Now, how about $2?
Like $2. Sí, but I will like this is my $2,
You know what? I'm sure you probably do the same thing, because I know anytime somebody says $2, I just go on a tirade, either in my head or out loud. $2. I want my $2.
Oh my gosh, I have something really funny to tell you about that. Well, my daughter submitted me to the Walk of Fame, because that's kind of like a fun thing. Like she's like, okay, we'll submit you, but the whole deal about doing that was, my dream is if I did get selected, because it's a big to do. If you get selected by the Walk of Fame, it's like it's somewhat political and whatever. But if you do get selected, it's very expensive to get a star. So what I thought was, this would be my dream. If I did get selected, I would open like an Indiegogo account, and then have everybody say, and then I'd say, I want your $2. So,
right.
So it would be like, I want your $2. So I would only need 15,000 fans, and then I could, get that star. So, but that, we'll see if that happens. But they'll I guess do the result in June. But how funny would that be? And then have all those
awesome.
people who, wouldn't that be great? And then have everybody who like gave their $2 come to the ceremony. I mean, that to me would be the ultimate. Because usually, like, studios pay for that. But I'm like, what if people who were fans gave their $2?
Sure.
That would be the coolest thing. So
that's
I'll keep
funny,
you posted.
Though.
That'd be great.
Now, how about guys like?
So anybody listening,
uh-huh.
friend me on Facebook. I'm actually on Facebook, and you'll see a black and white picture of me. And that is my like hub where I tell people what's going on with conventions and my book information, and actually I give a free autograph if you friend me, and then I have this piece of paper that, like this information about if you get the book, I'll sign it for free. But also, if we do the Walk of Fame, it will be there, and any films my daughter's doing, like all the stuff I have is on my Facebook account. So, and that's really me. So, just friend me. I'll accept you. Okay. Okay. So anyway, go on.
Guys like that you worked with, like John Cusack and Keanu Reeves, did you ever think that they would become such huge stars, all these years later? Like in the 80s, you wouldn't have thought that much of them.
That's actually a good question. I knew that Keanu had a real, he had a lot of heat when we first met, and people going, he's going to be a big star. And I do find it so interesting when people say that to me ahead of time, like, oh, watch out for them, they're going to be a big star. It's almost like somebody knows something that we all are not sure of. Maybe they've got a 3-picture deal or something. I'm not sure. I would love to actually know if Keanu knew that he was going to be, if he himself knew that he was going to explode. But I feel like with Keanu, I got him in the best film, because Bill and Ted, he was so cute and so adorable in that film. So I feel like I got to work with the best version of Keanu, personally. Not to say The Matrix isn't, and all those films aren't great, but I loved it. As well as John Cusack. What a gift to be able to work with John on comedy. And he was so self-effacing and just adorable. And it's funny, like, I guess it didn't occur to me that they would become big stars. It's more about going to hang in there the longest, because even when I started with modeling when I was like 10 years old, there were so many actresses. Like, I was going out in auditions with Elizabeth Shue and Lori Loughlin and Brooke Shields, and there were a whole bunch of other actresses that we'd all go on auditions, but at the time you didn't know who would hang in there and who would drop out.
Right.
And all of a sudden, like, you'd see, like, actors you'd think, oh my gosh, they are so talented, like they're gonna like be in the business, and they disappear. Andrea McCardle, like, she was like such a huge actress, and then all of a sudden she kind of disappeared after Annie.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I know, so it's just kind of interesting to see who hangs in there, and that I think that's more my experience of when I see actors, you know, who and I think also actors that are not finished, they haven't gotten where they want to be in their career too. Some actors are acting and they want that Oscar, and they're going to keep acting until they get that, you know, or they get that amazing role. So everyone has their personal, and my goal with acting has always been the adventure, and I want to try all different, you know, paths and opportunities. I want to be able to do voiceover and commercials and theater and film and television and, you know, sitcoms, and, you know, I like the experience of everything. So I think my creativity perhaps got in the way of maybe me becoming more of a like an A-list star.
Right.
Because I was always more interested in the role than the project. So I think that's probably why my career went in the way it did. You know?
Now we have the big conventions next weekend, Chiller Theater.
Yeah. I hope people come and see me. I don't want to be. I hope somebody's listening and they'll come and see me. I don't want to be sitting there by myself. No,
I'm coming to see you.
Like, are you? Are you really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good. One person for sure. I'm down, right? I will be there, and it will be. It's my second time at Chiller. There with the cast of Last American Virgin, which is great. There, and a lot of the actresses who are in the film have never been there before. So
really?
It should be, yeah. Like, I think like there. What was the girl? The blonde girl. The one who had the cocaine on her nose. I'm sorry, I forgot which my name is actually. Hold on, let me see if I can see what her name is. I forgot. My mind is a sieve. Tessa. Yeah, Tessa's going to be there. Tessa Richards and Kimmy Robertson will be there. We've been there before. Jerry Idle, who is in the film as well, and Winnie is going to be there. I think Brian Peck. Joe Rubo will be there. I don't know if Lawrence will be there, but I don't think we've ever had Tessa, so that'll be really fun. And and I'll have my book, which will be great. And
I was going to say, you're going to have the book there?
I don't know when I'm coming back again. What'd you say?
I was going to say, I was going to ask if you're going to have the book there.
Yeah, I'm going to have my book there, and I will be signing my book, which is great. And then I have a couple of specialty items, like one-of-a-kind things, individual things, some videos and some little T-shirt thing. And I'll, if anybody wants those, I'll sign those as well. But those are just little, like, specialty things. I thought I'd bring a few little special things for people who come, if they come as early as they can. You know, they may want them, you know. But I won't have a lot of those. But I don't know when I'm coming back to Chiller. I don't know the deal with them. We'll have to see if I'll be back with them. I don't know when I'll be back east. So it is worth it to come to the show. If you're thinking,
that doesn't
I don't
sound
know.
good.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with them. We'll see.
I've heard some interesting things about them as of late.
Yeah, I just don't know if I'm going to be, if they're into having me there. But let's put it this way: if I get on Walking Dead, or if I get on, any of the popular shows that are on TV now, perhaps they'll be all interested and want me to come back again. So we'll see how the tables turn, what goes on with that. So, but I'm excited.
They've just
I think
exploded.
It's going to be a great show.
I mean, the whole Chiller Theater. I mean, like even like this show, they're still adding guests as of the other day. I mean,
really?
Yeah. They just added the guy that played the Donger from 16 Candles the other day. I mean,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm excited because there's so many actors and actresses that I grew up with, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to see them, So I even, am excited to see. I mean, this is going to be a great show. It's just going to be an amazing show.
It really is.
I think people should. I mean, if there's any way you can get there, it's worth it. I mean, I wouldn't say that about Let's Miss all shows, but they have great people coming. So I would take advantage of it.
We've been going to that. It's funny because I've checked it out for years. And I'm like, all right, we're going to go. All right, we're going to go. And then we never go. And then we've gone to the last 3. And, I mean, we go every time now. Yeah, and it's a 2-hour drive for us because I'm in Philly. So to get there, it's about 2 hours. But it's well worth the drive.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing, I mean, on my personal note, David Faustino, I can never pronounce his name. He from Married with Children. He's going to be there, and when I did Summer Girl, he played the kid in Summer Girl. So he was like, I don't know, 10 or 8 years old. So I can't wait to see him because I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember when you were really little. I tried to drown you.
Well, it's funny because Jamie Kennedy's going to be there, and I grew up with Jamie.
Oh, that's so funny, right?
So, yeah, it is, because as a matter of fact, I saw him, he did Monster Mania in Cherry Hill, I guess a year ago, and I saw him there. And the last time I saw him before that was his 40th birthday. We all got together, a bunch of friends and all, and his family. He came home, and that was about 4 years ago.
It's great. It's just great. I mean, you can't lose because it's great memories. And I don't know. I'll tell you something, though. I've got to tell you, I can't imagine every actor doesn't, any actor who's ever been an actor has to wind up doing these, because being recognized is so, it's in the moment. It's like Paul Newman, famous actor or popcorn. It's your generation. So somebody could be so famous. I mean, you could say Lucille Ball, and everyone goes, oh my gosh, I know who that is. And you ask a teenager, and they're like, who's Lucille Ball? And you're like, are you kidding me? So
right.
That's life, right? So
yeah.
That's why I go. I appreciate it, and I'm going also in my prime years too. Like, I don't want to go when I'm like, who are you and who am I? What am I? Who are we? Right? I don't want to go when I don't remember who I am. So, this is just. I'm really excited about the show.
Now, do guys also come up and ask you to do the voice from Better Off Dead of Monique?
Oh yeah. Oh, in fact, the other thing is, I will be bringing the actual coat that I wore in the film. I have the coat. And if you come to see me, you could take a picture wearing the coat. I will make you wear that coat. Or I can wear it too. But
you wear the coat, because I guarantee it's not going to fit me.
You'd be surprised. I usually people, they think it's not going to fit, and I'm like, put this coat on. And it's just a great experience, and you're actually wearing the coat. And if I do this Walk of Fame, I will be donating that coat to the Walk of Fame as a memorabilia. Cool. So you got to wear the coat before if it goes. It's great. I'm so happy that people will be able to put it on, and it's just another thing. But perhaps I will talk like this when I'm with them, when they wear the coat, because otherwise they will just say, what am I doing? Why am I wearing this? And I'll go, no, it's okay. I'm really French. So. Or I'll speak English accent if they like Bill and Ted. It's totally fine for me. So, yeah. Oh, and the other thing, and I have to bring this up because it's just crazy. I've done all these films. 4 of the films I've been in, okay, I don't know, 4, that TerrorVision, Amityville 2, Second Time Lucky, and Last American Virgin, in a UK version, came out last year with commentary from me. Now, that's just crazy. Like, all in the same year. Like, the minute I started doing all this publicity, people started coming out with these films, and I'm trying to see if I can get Better Off Dead to do like a interview, like a commentary thing as well. And I'm just trying to find out who has the rights. That's the next level of that. But yeah, I mean, seriously, 4, like all these movies I've done have been re-released last year. So, and from it, on top of this, and this is a whole weird thing, I did this just recently. They are doing a film called Electric Boogaloo. what is it? The wildlife story of the Canon filmmakers. Documentary done by this Australian guy. I did an interview with him this past February, and it's coming out in a film festival. I think it's the Melbourne Film Festival first. It's coming out in July, I think, and then they're going to try to bring it like to Toronto. So it's a full feature, but I'm interviewed in it. So I mean, like I'm one of the people that talks about Last American Virgin. So there's stuff coming out on the stuff on Virgin still, which is. And the UK version of Virgin, oh my gosh, what a great interview! Like I mean, I do an interview, and Boaz Davidson does an interview, and that is just a keeper. So I'm going to see if I have any copies of that. I'll bring it to Chiller because it's
awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's all good stuff too. I mean, because with all that stuff coming up, it brings your name back out, and starts getting people's juices flowing for you again. And with you now getting the agent to start going back on auditions, it all works in perfectly.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, I mean, at least this is the time, it's a time where if there is any memory of me and wanting me to do, stuff, then this will be it. And I'm willing, I'm just going to have fun and enjoy it. And there's more adventures to be had, more excellent adventures. So,
that's awesome. Okay, so the book.
I can't wait to see you. on
I'm going to be there.
Great.
I'll be there on Saturday.
I'll be looking for you. Okay. I'll be like, where's
And actually, it's my birthday on Friday, so
Oh my gosh! Well, you'll have to get a special thing from me. I'll give you special something. All right. So I'm not telling you what, but you're going to get something special.
I will be there with bells on.
Good.
So
great.
The book now, where can we get the book? Is it just Amazon or?
Okay, it's on Amazon and Kindle. Go and look Diane Franklin book, and it'll bring that up. Friend me so that's great. If you friend me on Facebook, then you buy the book, you mail it to me at the address that I have. Every once in a while I post something that says I will sign it for free, and what you do is you print that out. You go to this email, this special website, and it'll have an address, and then you mail it to me. It sounds complicated, but it's not. You just mail me the book, and then I will sign it for free, and which is a very cool Facebook perk. And the other thing is, I also just did my first talk show ever, and that should be on like next month, and I will post that on Facebook as well. And that was hilarious.
What kind of talk show?
It's called the John Kerwin Show. And they talk about my book, but they were so funny. John Kerwin is so nice, but I have never done a talk show, and it was the first on-camera talk show. I think they're syndicated, but they also will have it online, I guess, on my website as well. So that's why if I'm sort of like a word-of-mouth person, so if you find out stuff, it's not going to be everywhere. It's like if you friend me on Facebook, that's where you'll find out about stuff. So, or listening to this show. That's how you find out. So
that's
not everywhere.
That's the way it is today. It's all word of mouth through social media.
Yep. I'm not the commercial thing, And again, if I'm on a TV show, like if I get on CSI New York or some kind of cable show, they will publicize their show with me on it. I'd like to get on Sunny in Philadelphia. That would be brilliant, But they're going to publicize me with the show. You're not going to get this inside stuff unless you friend me and unless you're listening to shows like this. So that's where there's the advantage of, the coolness of radio and your show.
There you go. And I sent my friend request, so I'll be waiting.
Good. Great. I'll be listening.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited. Can't wait for next week. Chiller Theater, everybody. Go there. It's well worth the 2-hour drive. If you have to drive longer, it's still worth it.
Mwah. I send you a big kiss from Monique Genet, and cheers from Princess Joanna from Bill and Ted. And I hope to see you guys there. It'll be really fun.
Absolutely. And before I let you go, can I get you to cut a quick ID for me? However you want to do it. I was about to say Monique. This is Diane Franklin, and you're listening to Totally Driven Radio. Throw all your voices in there. Knock your socks off.
This is Diane Diane Franklin, Monique Genet to some of you, and this is Diane at Totally Driven Entertainment Radio. Thank you. And Diane Franklin here, saying listen to Totally Driven Entertainment Radio. This is where you have to be. It's the cool radio station.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And everybody go
You're
to
welcome.
Amazon and buy her book and friend her on Facebook, and then you can get it signed.
Yes, and you'll love the book. Guaranteed. Absolutely.
I can't wait.
It's so awesome.
I'm going to get
All
my
right,
copy from you that day. So I will see you next
good.
weekend, and I can't wait. All right. Thanks so much, Diane. This has been awesome.
I really appreciate you having me on the show. All right. See you guys later.
See ya. Have a good night.
Bye.
All right, everybody. There she goes. Diane Franklin. Check her out. Go to Amazon. Get her book. And as a matter of I just got to say that title again because I love the title so much. Diane Franklin, The Excellent Adventures of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. Go to Amazon, get it now. You can get it for the Kindle or you can get actual paperback copy. Tons of pictures in there. And like she said, friend her on Facebook, and then she'll give you the address to send the book, and she will sign it for you. So there you go, everybody. Another show in the books. I want to thank Diane. I want to thank John Fred Young from Blackstone Cherry and Donnie Hillier of Trauma. It's been a hell of a night. It's been a totally driven night, and we are ready to close up shop. Until next week, everybody, remember, stay driven.